So, Pluribus season 1 just ended, and I have a lot of feelings. I mean, feelings about the show, obviously, but in addition to that, I have a lot of feelings about the general audience's reaction to it and how it ended. Well, I say ended, the season finale. The show isn't done. I think Vince Gilligan plans a couple more seasons. But yeah, Pluribus is Vince Gilligan's new show. If you don't know who Vince Gilligan is, amazing director. He made Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and now Pluribus. I think he's pretty well known at this point, and Pluribus gained a lot of traction just because of him as a director. But yeah, I had a lot of thoughts and wanted to share them about how people reacted to the show. I think there is just a large epidemic of people who weren't quite cut out to view it. And what I mean by that is TikTok is ruining our brains. So, I mean, people have joked about it before. I mean, it's kind of obvious in current society. People are always on their phones, and I mean, I don't want to take the position of like, oh, well, you're shameful. Get off your phone, whatever. Because I also doom scroll. You know, I'm also brain rotting 24/7. I never get off my phone. But there's a large subset of just the general public who this doom scrolling and brain rotting has just absolutely one-shotted. It's just shredded their ability to view any content with a slower pace. And a big criticism of Pluribus that many of these people have given is that it's just too slow. It is extremely slow-paced. And I don't think it's wrong to say that Pluribus is slow-paced. If you were to watch the show, you would get that. But the way they're describing it is definitely a symptom of brain rot. We'll get into that. But what is Pluribus? To give a quick plot synopsis, there's this alien virus that's transmitted through radio waves, and it is this sort of cosmic glue that holds all consciousnesses on Earth together. So instead of people being individual humans, they are joined into one hive mind. Hive minds in fiction have always been very interesting, but the way Pluribus does it is also very interesting. I think it is one of the most creative setups for a show I've seen in forever. And I mean, you know, concept is one thing, but execution is more important. I think Vince executes it amazingly. I think the first episode of Pluribus. I think the first episode of Pluribus is borderline a horror film. He really does take like the cosmic horror aspect of it and put it on screen very well. Because I mean, think about it. If you're one of the last people on Earth, which this is the hook, the tagline is we follow a character who is one of like 12, 11, I forget the exact number, people on Earth who haven't been joined. They weren't a part of the joining. So imagine you're all alone, basically, even though everyone else is there. And everyone, all their consciousness is now one. And, you know, the way it happens, too, is super traumatic. I don't want to spoil it. It is literally the first episode, and it's not really a spoiler, but I don't want to spoil the framing of it and how exactly it happens. I'll probably get into spoilers later. Watch it if you haven't, and then come back to this video. Very good show, very good concept, and Vince Gilligan executes it near perfectly. I think there are so many directions you could go with a concept like this. Like, the basis of Pluribus, it is incredibly intriguing, and I used the term cosmic horror earlier, and it truly is that. I don't think he frames it as that, as like apart from the first episode. It is more character based. It's more about like character development than it is about the horror of the hive mind, because as we find out, the hive mind is quite altruistic. And so the hive mind itself isn't really terrifying in a typical sense. They're not out to hurt anyone. They're not really going to hurt anyone, except, you know, when they try to turn you into one of them. In theory, that's a good thing because they're hive mind and they're helping. Pluribus is a show about a lot of things. AI, it's about communism, and this is just about loneliness being one of the last people on Earth is obviously going to be a lonely experience, but it's incredibly interesting where Carol, our main character, finds herself going to whenever there's no one else. But yeah, let's get into the hook of this video. Pluribus isn't really that slow. You just have TikTok brain. So again, it's no secret that TikTok has absolutely fried the attention span of the general audience. But really to put this into perspective, I just finished Stranger Things Season 5. And while it's quite an experience finally finishing a show that I've been watching intermittently for nearly 10 years now, it wasn't great. And part of the reason Season 5 in particular was it was enjoyable, but not great. It was made for TikTok attention spans. The characters speak in a way where it's almost as if the writers expected you to be on your phone as you're watching it. And a lot of shows are written like that nowadays. There were so many scenes in Stranger Things Season 5 where the characters just straight up like almost explain what they're doing as they're doing it. The dialogue is very poorly written in a very intentional way, I feel. The reason I am so critical of this, and I mean, it's fair to be critical of bad dialogue to begin with, but the Duffers, the Duffer Brothers, creators of Stranger Things, can write dialogue. Season 1 was so good. Season 1 was actually really good television, in my opinion. And then it just kind of kept going, and I don't think they expected it to. And they held on to the same characters and whatever, but the dialogue didn't really get that bad until Season 5. It's almost as if the epidemic of doom scrolling and modifying television show scripts for it wasn't really at the forefront until this final season, and it's evident. Pluribus doesn't let that affect it, and I think that's part of the reason general audiences don't like it that much. When I say general audiences don't like it, I think that's a bit of an overstatement. It's rated well, but I don't think it's rated well enough. Like Stranger Things, a lot of the episodes of Stranger Things 5 have higher ratings than a lot of the episodes of Pluribus because people claim they're bored watching it. I think if you watch Pluribus and you're bored watching it, you do have TikTok brain. This is a comparison that I've seen online a lot. If you have watched Breaking Bad, there is an episode, I think it's season 3, called The Fly. And I forget exactly why it was produced. I think it was budget reasons, I'm not sure. But it's an entirely self-contained episode. And the plot on the surface is Walter White just running around the lab trying to kill a fly. Because it's a contaminant and you can't have a fly in a meth lab, whatever. This episode was not rated well. A lot of people thought it was slow. A lot of people thought it messed up the pace of the season. And they said it was boring. But the thing that was so beautiful about this episode was the subtext within it. The fact that the character development and emotions felt by this episode were extremely, I don't want to say implicit because it really wasn't if you were paying attention. But I think it is one of those things. It's kind of a skill check for a TV show where you're watching it and you get to an episode like The Fly. And if you dislike it, then I don't really think you're there for the characters or like the emotions they're feeling. I think you're there for the plot, and that's fine. But if you really are just there to see a guy like make meth and whatever, then you're not like actually watching the show on a deeper level than what you could be if you were just scrolling your phone while watching it. And I think that's why a lot of people disliked it. Obviously, when that episode came out and received the criticism it did, there wasn't short form content. People weren't scrolling on their phones like that yet. It's the same effect. So while I do want to call this TikTok brain, and while I do think it's gotten worse, it's not caused by TikTok. The worsening of it is caused by TikTok brain. But the initial root cause of people just refusing to actually engage with media they watch is not TikTok. It's always been a thing. Speaking of the characters and how they're feeling, Carol is an incredibly interesting character. Carol is the main protagonist of Pluribus, and we start the show finding out she's not really a super nice person, she's not the greatest protagonist. I think she's a very unlikely and unreluctant. Is that a word? Unreluctant. Unreluctant hero? No, reluctant hero. What am I saying? Reluctant hero. She doesn't, if you want to call her hero at all, she's not really. I have very mixed opinions on Carol. And I want to say, Rhea Seehorn, absolutely amazing actress. The fact that she's able to portray Carol, as unlikable as she is, so well, is incredible. I think Carol is an amazing depiction. I think Rhea Seehorn did exactly what Vince's vision was. And by the way, I love how much Vince Gilligan just loves Rhea Seehorn. I mean, Vince basically made Pluribus to give Rhea Seehorn more acting roles. I think that's amazing. I love that. That's so cute. Like Carol as a character, she's very unlikable. If you were to watch her, she's a very miserable person, I would say. I'm gonna get into spoiler territory here. So if you have not watched Pluribus, go do that. It's an amazing show. It's only 8 episodes. Each episode, I don't even think each episode is like an hour long. So, go watch it. So I would also be miserable if my wife died and the entire world turned into a hive mind and I didn't really understand what was going on. I would also be miserable, don't get me wrong. The way she treats a lot of other people she's very self-centered in a way. But I think it's a way that I can almost forgive given the circumstances. But as we see flashbacks, we kind of understand she's always been like that. Let me get this out of the way. I'm not a lesbian. But I think Carol's character development in Pluribus is like inexplicably tied to her being a lesbian. And I love the way it's portrayed in the show because it's just a part of her character. And I don't think Pluribus would work if it was not a lesbian. And that sounds like a very weird statement, but I think it's true. I think the loneliness Carol feels is inextricably tied to the experiences of like lesbianism. There's been more commentary on it from people who actually are lesbians, which I am not. Don't know if you can tell, but I don't think the show would work if it was a different protagonist. But yes, to talk about Carol's loneliness, I think it's the middle of the series that really gets into it, where the hive mind has just left her. She messed up enough. She tried to kill Zosha, twice, I think, and the hive mind wasn't having it anymore. So they kind of just left. After they leave, she finds out that the other humans, like the other survivors, don't really want to meet with her anymore. They're having their own meetings every week and they're talking about stuff, but everyone else, they kind of voted to not have her on the meetings at all. And Carol, who I would say she's self-centered to an extent, that hurts, but I can't even blame her. I mean, you are one of the last people on the earth and nobody wants to talk to you. The way it progresses, the plot is very interesting. She becomes attached to Zosha, who is not a person, but her chaperone. It's one of the people the hive mind sent to basically introduce her to the whole joining thing and explain everything to her. And the reason is because Carol is an author and this woman looks like one of the characters in her books. It's very funny. I think the humor of Pluribus, by the way, side note, it's very good. It's one of the funniest shows I've watched in a while, but it's definitely not one of those things where in depth you have to think about jokes. There's just some inherent comedy in the way the characters interact sometimes. But yeah, anyways, Carol becomes very attached to Zosha in a very unhealthy way, I would say. The hive mind itself doesn't really have any individual emotions, again, because it's a hive mind. There's nothing letting the hive mind love one person in particular. So when it comes to Carol and Zosha's relationship that slowly forms over the show, it is definitely a manipulative thing from the hive mind, or it feels like that from my perspective, and that's what I was getting from it. Is it feels very manipulative. We find out the hive mind, being as altruistic as they are, they're not really in the business of manipulation or doing anything for purposes of that nature. Or let me correct myself, the hive mind would not explicitly do something like that. If there's something they are explicitly told, this is bad, this is hurting me, don't do this, they won't. If they're explicitly told not to do a thing, they won't. If they have implicit permission to do something, and it aligns with their goals, they will. The big reveal at the end of the season is that even though Carol thought she was safe from getting turned into one of them, her eggs that she froze with Helen, they found them and they can extract stem cells from them and develop a quote-unquote cure for Carol to turn her into the hive mind. So while the hive mind doesn't explicitly lie or do anything like negative if they're told not to or whatever, they can implicitly do things. And I think we see Zosia kind of nudging Carol in a direction. Because to be clear, Zosia is the one that hit on Carol first. And I think that's kind of insane from a hive mind perspective. That's definitely a very manipulative mood. And we kind of get this moment in I think it's the finale episode, or maybe it's the episode before it, where Carol is talking to Zosia, and while Manuelsos, who is a guy from Paraguay, is like the only survivor that is actually willing to talk to Carol or whatever, but he had to travel all the way from Paraguay to get there, and takes Zosia for a second. Carol gets her back and is like, why did you go talk to him? Why did you tell him everything? You were my chaperone. And she really wanted to say girlfriend because they kind of thought they were a thing. And people have pointed this out on Twitter. It's like, that is low-key a you thought the stripper loved you moment. And I think it's very pathetic, but she was very lonely and the hive mind's manipulative. I think the character building in this show is incredibly good. I don't know if there's many shows where in 8 episodes I don't even know if I didn't need all 8 episodes. I don't know if there's a show within 1 episode I pretty much understood the protagonist, I don't want to say very deeply, but I got her gist very quickly. I do want to read something. I watched all of Pluribus with my girlfriend, and she had some very strong opinions about Carol Sturka. I was definitely a lot more empathetic to her position. I'm not going to say I've ever been in a apocalypse situation where an alien hive mind is taking over Earth. She had some very negative opinions about Carol Sturka, so I'll read out her thing. Yeah, by the way, this is an absolute wall of text. But anyways, I loathe Carol Sturka. This is her words, not mine. Just side note. I want to preface this post with a disclaimer. By the way, this is supposed to be a Reddit post. She posted it to r/Pluribus TV, and the mods were like, no. Too many people have said they hate Carol Sturka, so no one else can discuss it now. I want to preface this post with a disclaimer that I very much enjoy the show, and I will continue watching. I think the show is well written. I think Carol's character is well written, and I'm excited to see what all happens. However, I hate Carol Sturka. Her words, not mine. While her character is well written and I wouldn't want to change her actions and decisions infuriate me. Every episode I am in shock and awe at how selfish, stupid, moronic, and childish this damn woman is. The show really is the most insufferable woman tries to save the world from happiness. This is not anything against Rhea Seehorn. She has done a fantastic job playing this character, which is why I am able to get invested in the show as I have been. I started out just thinking Carol was annoying with how she treated Helen in the first episode. That's true, by the way. I actually agree with that. But to be fair, we do kind of find out later that Helen wasn't the greatest to Carol, but whatever. I understand she was upset that she was writing slop. Side note here, this is kind of a weird character thing. It's implied at the beginning of the story that Carol doesn't really enjoy writing her Wicaro books. It's kind of just slop that she puts out and feeds to people to make money. But whenever she is showing Zosia her new version of it where Raban is now a woman, I maybe my interpretation of it was wrong at first, or maybe she's actually excited about writing now that Raban is a woman. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. She was writing slop, but she did not seem to worry about how her mood and sarcasm would affect her wife. Nonetheless, not a big deal, but just sets the mood for how I started to feel about Carol. Her initial reaction to the world getting pluribus. By the way, I love using pluribus as a verb. Someone gets pluribus, and it's such a funny word. Plurbed. You get plurbed. The pluribus. The plurb. I think it's silly funny. Her wife died, the world ended, so yeah, she's allowed to flip out and freak out all she likes. But everything after is what has gotten under my skin. Carol is a dick to the pluribus. This is where my hatred was seated in the season. She's definitely valid in not wanting to interact or trust the pluribus. The shit is whack, so she's allowed to be confused and not like them. However, she goes between liking them and hating them, and does not have any fucking consistent morals whatsoever. She keeps yelling at them to do all this random ass shit for her. Not necessities. I know she needs them for that, but the excessive shit like the ice cold Gatorade. And after they do this shit for her, she throws a fucking tantrum at them. I understand they just killed her wife and shit is whack, but she doesn't know if these motherfuckers are hostile or dangerous or what. And her first instinct is to be a dick to them. Great survival skills. 10 out of 10. I'm sure throwing a tantrum is a great way to survive the end of the world. I agree with this, but again, the world just ended, so I don't think having good survival skills is like being a dick. Maybe she's just stupid. That's fine. And her being a dick isn't isolated to the end of the world. When we see her and Helen in a flashback, she was still being a dick to Helen and the tour guide and everyone. Has this woman ever been happy? What the hell did Helen see in her? Because she clearly didn't have any joy in her life. Somehow, through the grace of God, she survives the Pluribus because they are nice and tolerate her shit. Then she has to go and fuck up interacting with all the other normal people. While they aren't receptive to her opinions, no matter how she is presented the information, her presentation ensured their opposition. I agree with this. She presented it in such a way, like such a self-centered way, talking over everybody, saying, oh, my opinion is correct, yours is wrong, etc. And I'll get into that interaction in a little bit. I think the other humans on Earth and their reaction to how it works is one of the biggest plot points of the show. Well, okay, that's kind of just an objective fact. It's one of the biggest plot points of the show. It's one of the most important plot points of the show when it comes to theming. I swear this woman has never spoken to other people a day in her life. Why the fuck are you running in, shouting demands at other people, and trying to act like the coach giving the team a pep talk? They also have opinions. Ask, communicate, discuss. Why are you going on a rampage before you know their thoughts? She's just so stupid with her interactions. I sat watching these scenes while pulling my hair out of my skull. Again, well written. I'm just getting really into the show. Anyways, after she fucks up all her opinions, she decides to fall in love with the Pluribus. This has been the biggest issue I have had with her. Her wife just died, and you were gonna fuck what is basically her killer, because she's hot? She's been nothing but a dick to Zosha. She demands things from her, then berates her all while wanting to fuck her. This is gonna be the most unhealthy fucking lesbian relationship I've seen, and I've been in one. She blew up Zosha, then tortured her, and sent her under cardiac arrest. Now, after they have sex, she goes on to say, you're mine. You controlling bitch. Also, making Zosha say I, me, etc. and turn her into an individual when she is not is fucking psychotic. Carol knows she's not an individual. She's in a fucking hive mind. However, she just pretends she isn't. Then, only after she gets personally upset by them using her sim cells, which is an acceptable anger, but only after this happens, and she is personally affected by it, she is finally willing to save the world, which she had said she wanted to do this whole time, over her fucking pluribussy that she claimed as her own. She's so fucking selfish and stupid. I hope she gets pluribus. This is why I love Menosos. He's got consistent principles and morals, and he follows them. He's smart with his survival skills, is actually trying to save the world and survive, unlike Mick fucking stupid ass bitch over here. Anyways, I think that was a beautifully well-written passage from my girlfriend talking about how much Carol is a bitch. Now, I don't share her opinion. Like I said, I'm much more empathetic to Carol in her position, and people react different ways, and if you were to treat the pluribus like that, I don't have that much empathy for the pluribus in the way that my girlfriend does, I think. But regardless, I think this is a very good analysis of Carol's character in terms of the way people hate her. But anyways, I want to talk about another part of that. How I just said her talking to the other people is like one of the most important plot points in terms of theming. So like I said, Pluribus is about AI. Not explicitly, and I don't think it's like exclusively about AI. Like I said, it's about many things, but it is about AI. And say the hive mind of Pluribus is the AI. People are extremely ignorant about it. In the same way they are about the hive mind. When they are told, hey, this is kind of delusional and harmful in a way, they're just like, oh, well, it's fine though. Like, it seems fine to me. People are really good at deluding themselves into believing that AI is like, has a relationship with them or actually agrees with them, things of that nature. And I think the hive mind is very similar. When it comes to Diabate, in his little like fantasies he acts out with the Pluribus, that's incredibly similar to how people use ChatGPT, where it's just kind of sycophants. But all in all, I think the allegories that Pluribus makes for, AI or just really technology in general, are extremely well written. People have analyzed this much better than I have, and this is like an unscripted yap session basically. But I just wanted to give my opinions on Pluribus and basically say, if you think this show is slow, or if you think it's like unwatchably like boring, I think that's an issue with you. And I think Vince Gilligan has crafted this beautiful vision of what his show is supposed to be, and he's done it. And I think he's executed it very well. And I mean, it's okay not to like the show for other reasons. You know, I'm not saying like, oh, you need to like this show. But if you think it's unreasonably slow or boring, I think you need to just get better at consuming content. And I don't want to say consuming content, because that is kind of the point I'm getting at. The fact that we view things as content to consume rather than art. Viewers refuse to watch anything that they're not already like in their comfort zone with, or isn't already automatically appealing to them. It's okay to have a movie or a show that is paced a bit slower. Yeah, thank you so much for listening to me yap. If you watched this whole video and you haven't seen the show, please go watch Pluribus. I don't think I can describe it in a way better than it actually is. And also just Apple TV Plus has been putting out some bangers. So go watch Pluribus, go watch Severance, and I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's good. Go watch Ted Lasso. All right, bye-bye.